Hey there, everybody. So it's been a little while since we talked. Of course, that's always my fault with the work monster and all that stuff. But I did recently see Pixar's newest release on Disney Plus, Soul, and there was just so much I wanted to say about it that I was compelled to make a video to talk to you guys about it. Yeah, she wanted to talk about Soul too, didn't you? This is Ray, by the way. She also liked Soul. Say hello. So as always, I'm going to delve into some of the spoilery things and plot details when it comes to Soul. So if you haven't seen the movie yet and you want to see it on your own, pause the video here, go watch Soul, come back when you're done. It promise will still be here. And this is a movie you should definitely check out on your own to form your own opinions about because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to Soul. So before I get into Soul, I also watched Burrow, which was the new Pixar short in front of Soul. Basically, I kind of figured that if this were in a theater setting, we probably would have the short before the movie. So I decided to basically just do that in my own house. So Burrow, I honestly I don't have a lot to say about it. I thought it was a cute little short. It wasn't anything like massive on the level of some of the past Pixar and Disney shorts. It wasn't something that was completely life changing or anything like that. Again, I thought it was cute. I thought it was fine, but nothing over the top. Nothing like super memorable. If that makes any sense. But yeah, last warning, last chance before we start getting into the meat of Soul here. So if you haven't seen it, again, this is your last spoiler warning. Okay, we're gonna go into it from here. Right, so first things first, I really liked Soul. For those of you who have followed the channel and myself on Twitter, you'll know I've been anticipating this movie for a long time now. I remember when Pixar had outlined sort of like a one-line synopsis for a bunch of their future projects, and I remember when I saw Soul, it was interesting. It sounded again a little bit like Inside Out, but it did seem very interesting and very high concept. I remember being very curious to see how they were going to pull it off, and then when I saw the first teaser trailer with that overture by AJR and everything else, it really got me into this movie. So I've been anticipating it for a long time, and I'm happy that it didn't let me down. I thought it was a very good movie, a very good film. And you're probably going to hear me call it that a lot, a film as opposed to just a movie, and I'll kind of get into why a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, my first impressions of this movie are it was a lot more high concept than a lot of other Pixar movies. And what I mean by that is obviously the content that Soul is exploring, the whole kind of what makes life worth living, and again, it's almost hard to even nail down what it's talking about because it is so high concept and everything else, talking about life's purpose versus your spark for a living and things like that. And these I remember thinking when the movie ended, this was it was a heavy movie. It was a very intelligent and high concept movie. And it was interesting too because I had thought that this movie was going to make me bawl like a baby. It really didn't. And that's not a knock on the movie, but it was more thoughtful. I guess it made me more reflective than emotional. Don't get me wrong, there were certainly emotional moments in this movie, especially at the last I don't know, 10, 15 minutes or so when Joe is really coming to the realization as to what life means. But yeah, I found myself to be more reflective upon watching this movie than emotional. Also, apologies if you hear little sounds and scratches going on in the background. That's just Ray trying to make her appearance and thoughts known. But yeah, there were a lot of things that I just found interesting about this movie and kind of the approach that it took, especially when you looked at this main kind of overarching theme of life's purpose versus a life spark. Because we've been conditioned in so many Disney and Pixar movies that to follow your dreams, to chase your dreams, to do anything to achieve your dreams because to follow your that's your purpose in life and your dreams are above all else. And this movie sort of puts that concept on its head because while your dreams are obviously important and while your life's purpose is important, this really focused more on the joy of just being alive. Joe, his dream is to get his big break in the jazz world, and he's finally going to get that big break, and he's doing anything he can to make sure that that break happens. And then when he finally does play with the Dorothea Williams band, thanks Ray, um, it leaves him unfulfilled. He's missing something, and I don't know. There's a few interpretations of that I saw. I think that the big one for me is that because he saw how 22 was enjoying living and like the little things about living, it almost became like it didn't. His experience playing and living out what he believed to be his dream didn't compare to the joy that she felt with just the little things, just watching the clouds or sitting on an air vent and things like that. And it really makes you think, and it makes you wonder, even the concept of like the people who become too obsessed with their purpose and too obsessed with their dreams and what they're following and their pursuits, becoming these lost souls and things like that. They really kind of put things in perspective and make you kind of introspective and wondering like are you a lost soul? Are you pursuing something too hard or becoming too obsessed with something? So it really was interesting, and it really was thoughtful, and it's not an angle that I've seen a lot from movies, but especially animated movies. So I thought it was interesting that was the direction that they went with. Also, the animation and the music in this movie is immaculate. I mean, the thing that really the animation in general is really fantastic and beautiful, and even looking at the Great Beyond and the Great Before, and sort of the ways that they did that, it's all very pretty and again very intelligently done. But the animation in particular that really stuck out to me was the animation on the musical instruments. It's really easy to kind of fake those things or to just sort of fudge your way through them. These were accurate. When someone is playing saxophone, they're actually playing the notes. When they're playing piano, they're playing the notes. And I really appreciated all those little details. And there were times where I was watching this movie and you almost wonder, like, how much further can we really push animation? Like, it looked so gorgeous, a lot of this throughout. So again, I have to give a lot of credit to the actual look and feel of this movie. And the music too. I mean, again, if you guys have followed the channel long enough, you'll know I'm a big music nerd, and especially I played in bands for years. So the jazz and this was really cool, and it was interesting because the music is definitely a big element of the movie, but it's not the main focus of the movie, which I wasn't sure about going in. I when I first saw like initial trailers for this, I almost thought this was going to be a musical in the vein of like Coco, where it's like it's not like a Broadway musical, but music will be kind of songs will be sprinkled throughout. And that really wasn't the case. We did get a lot of music in it, like when people are playing, and just kind of little things like the guy playing in the subway and stuff like that. But it didn't dominate the movie. I wouldn't classify this as a musical by any stretch of the imagination. So I thought it was interesting how they used it, and again, the music is awesome throughout, especially if you're into jazz or anything like that. It's definitely a fun soundtrack. I also have to make special mention of the cast. I thought the cast was great throughout. Jamie Foxx was really good as Joe. Tina Fey was awesome as 22, and all the little ones kind of sprinkled throughout. I know that it was a big deal that this movie had an African American lead. The cast was primarily African American, and that's all good. I think Pixar's done a pretty good job with representation lately. I can only comment so much about that, obviously being a straight white male myself. But when I look at things like Bao, and I look at things like Coco and now Soul, I think they've done a pretty good job trying to integrate more representation, which is definitely important. Definitely, hats off about that. Hopefully this is one step further to it not being a big deal when there's a cast that is primarily all African American or anything like that. So, worth mentioning, but I'm sure other people can speak to it more eloquently than I could. But again, kudos to them for making the attempt to further representation in film and in animated film in particular. I also really liked the end of this film because it is pretty open-ended, especially like as far as a Pixar movie goes. So at the end of the film, the Jerrys, decide that they too were pretty inspired by Joe and his mentorship and things like that. And they decided to give him a second chance to live, especially with all the lessons that he's learned and everything like that. And we basically see him just kind of walk out the door and with this smile and sort of like a new lease on life and a new attitude to really live life. But they don't really show us what it is that he's going to do with this new lease on life and things like that. Um, and I kind of like that because you can sort of make your own interpretations on it. Is he going to go back to Dorothy Williams' band? Is he going to go back to teaching and things like that? Is it going to be a combination of the two? And it can lead to discussion to what he came up with. I mean, I certainly have my own thoughts and interpretations. I personally, I think that he would try to blend the two together because he seemed to really like the idea of teaching, and there was this kind of underlying sense of him affecting people's lives. Joe was always affecting people's lives. He affected 22's life, obviously, and allowed her to finally be able to go to Earth. But like Curly had mentioned that Joe's class was the only reason he was even going to school, and now he's a professional musician. The girl whose name I forget, who's the trombone player, who again wanted to quit school and wanted to quit playing trombone and all that stuff before sorta Joe. It was the body switch thing, but inspired her to keep going and showed her how much she really loves music. So in my mind, he still is doing that because that is something that gives him joy. But I also don't think he would give up necessarily playing jazz music or playing in this big opportunity because it is something that was so important to him, and it was something that finally his mother accepted and his dad did and everything else. So, but that's the thing is that's like my version of it in my head, and everybody can have different ones, and it really depends on what you took out of the film, and I think that's kind of cool. And it's interesting because I mentioned this on Twitter a little bit, but I almost when I was watching Soul, I kind of felt this was for an older audience with an older audience in mind compared to other Pixar films. Because it was so deep and the concepts were so high concept and it wasn't like other movies where it's there's laughs and slapstick and stuff like that feels like it's designed and geared for kids with this like overriding message that maybe when you're older you understand, or for the adults or things like that. This one really felt more, and it's not to say that there wasn't humor in it. The joke about why the Knicks are so bad particularly I found to be pretty funny, but there's plenty of fun stuff in this throughout, but it just in general just I felt that it was trying to say more than other Pixar movies, and that just it was geared for more adult or just a more mature audience. So I don't know if this movie connects as much with kids or that younger generation than other Pixar movies will, and I don't think it was trying to, honestly. I think that it was trying to be a more grown up movie, and again I mentioned this on Twitter. It's as if we needed more proof that animated films don't have to just be kids movies. This is another example of that where this is like any other traditionally made movie. It had something to say. It was trying to say it in unique and interesting ways, and it was thought provoking. It made you think. It made you kind of feel things that you don't normally feel, and have opinions and form opinions that you may not have had before, or just see things in a different way. And I think that's kind of cool. Of course, on the flip side, I think that I don't know if it's so much strategy but that style of movie I think is what has made reactions to Soul, I don't want to say divided or controversial, but I've seen a lot of kind of back and forth on Twitter between some people saying that it was amazing, some people saying it was fantastic, and some people saying that it was just okay. I don't think I haven't seen anyone say it was outright bad, because that would just be ridiculous. But I know I've seen a number of people just say it was okay. It wasn't what I expected. I was left wanting more, stuff like that. And this is one of those movies where I think that both are right. Me personally, again, as you guys can kind of tell by now, I took a lot out of this movie. I enjoyed it, from beginning to end, and I do think that it's a very well done movie and a home run for Pixar. But on the flip side, I can completely understand why someone might be left wanting more from this, because it's not a typical Pixar movie. It's not, as I mentioned before, like It is emotional. There's an emotional weight to it, but it was much more thoughtful than emotional. And some people maybe weren't into that or weren't thinking that as much. So, it's it's just different strokes for different folks. Some people are going to be very into this. Some people maybe not so much. I think both are right. And again, I think that that's okay. It leads to more discussion and more kind of, why you didn't like this, why you didn't like that. It's how I feel with Disney animated films. I mean, I said it way back in the day when we talked about Fantasia. I can recognize Fantasia is a fantastic masterpiece of a movie. I can also, at the same time, say that I just don't like concert pictures or concert features, and that's okay. So some people, I think that most people who were kind of left underwhelmed by this film can appreciate that this is something important and this is something very good, but it's just not for them, and that's how it goes sometimes. Though I will say, and of course, this is through nobody's fault. It's the world situation as it is. I do think it is a shame that this movie did not get released in theaters. Completely understand why they did what they did. Completely understand why it had to be released on Disney Plus. I support the decision. I'm not arguing with that or anything like that. I just think that there is something to be said about being able to fully immerse yourself in this movie and the theater going experience. And I do think that it was missing something without that theater going experience. For me personally, I remember mentioning afterwards that I really wish that we did get to see this in theaters, because I think that some of the emotional moments may have hit even harder. The animation you would have been able to appreciate even more. There's things that you get in a theater that you don't get at home. You have your phone is going off and things are happening and you get distracted because you're in your as opposed to a theater. So it's just it's the part that one of the many parts that sucks, about kind of the world that we're living in right now. But yeah, I do think that this movie suffered a little bit without being able to be seen in theaters. And who knows, maybe some of these people who were left a little underwhelmed or were left, just saying this movie is okay, maybe their opinion would have been different if they got to see it in a movie theater setting. Who knows? But again, nobody's fault. I think it's the right decision to have released on Disney Plus, because you can't sit on these movies forever, especially with all that Disney has coming in the next couple of years. But still can lament that it didn't happen. We also get to have an interesting discussion this year that we don't always get to have, but considering that we had 2 Pixar movies come out this year, it's the old question of which one did you like better. And it's kind of interesting this year, because of course we had Onward and now Soul. And the way I've been describing it, and again, it may not make a lot of sense, but bear with me here, is that I thought that Onward was the better movie and Soul was the better film. So again, I know that's a little contradictory and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but here's what that means to me. So for me, Onward was much more of a traditional Pixar film. It was this fun kind of, I don't want to say carefree, but a lot more lighthearted adventure with this emotional core that held the story together, and the big kind of swell ending that hits you right in the heart and makes you feel something and all that stuff. So I think it was a lot more of a traditional Pixar movie, and I think it's the movie that you would more likely, or at least I would more likely, sit down and watch just on like a random Saturday. I think it's the one that I could see myself rewatching multiple times over, just because of the nature of the story and my reaction to it. Soul, on the other hand, I think had a lot more to say than Onward. It had a lot more, again, thoughtful moments and things like that. But it's one of those ones where it's almost so heavy that I don't know how often I would want to just sit down and watch it, because it is thought-provoking, stuff like that. It's the movie that I don't think you would see on like, a free-form marathon or something like that, where they're going to rattle off like a few movies just for some fun. I don't see a lot of soul in there. And again, I don't know if like a younger audience kind of gets into that. So, but again, that's not to say that that's not a knock on either movie. That's not a knock. I enjoyed both of them just for separate reasons. So that's kind of my weird cop-out way of saying that I like both of them just for different reasons. Onward, a better movie for me, and Soul, a better film. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Soul. I really liked it. You know, it's just one of those things where it's really hard to beat original Pixar. I've said it in the past. You know, the sequels are fun. You know, they're and then they can be good to great. You know, when you look at something like Toy Story 3, and then you even have fun ones like the Incredibles and Finding Dory and all that stuff. But there's just something about original Pixar that really hits different. And it was nice. We got two original Pixar films this year that were both great. We're gonna get one, fingers crossed, next year with Luca. I haven't seen too much about it. I just know that it takes place in an Italian setting. That was a tongue twister, and I believe it involves like brothers and things like that. So I haven't seen like too much about it, but hey, it's an original Pixar film with a one-word title, so hopefully it should be good. But yeah, it's just further proof that when Pixar does original films and when they really set out to do something, they can do some pretty emotional and incredible things. I mean, this director in particular has done a very good job in the past. I know he most recently had done Inside Out and now Soul. He did Up, so he definitely has found his niche in these like really heart-wrenching, emotional, thought-provoking stories. And again, it's just for someone like me who's a nerd about animation, I just think it's cool to see these movies that are bigger than just kids movies, that can do more than kids movies, and I think that Soul is really the epitome of that, of this high concept film, this art, piece of art that can make you ponder about what makes life worth living and things like that. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, that about wraps it up for me today. I am working behind the scenes on another video for you guys. I know it's been a little while, but nature of the beast sometimes. But I'm almost done at least writing that video, and then after that video will be the Aladdin review. So again, we're getting towards the new year here. Hopefully, I always try to make the resolution to be a little bit better in the next year. Hopefully this is the year where it actually sticks. I'm going to try to do a lot more of these style videos too, where we do like the Disney news, we just talk about stuff, because it's just fun to kind of ramble about Disney stuff for a little bit and get to talk to you guys directly. Though of course you can always follow me on Twitter. I try to be as active as I can on there. You usually see my thoughts on things like this, kind of immediate thoughts a little bit more on there. So you can always follow me at Joe Disney Guy. You can always check out the Patreon page, Joe Disney Guy, if you want to help support the channel, because again, the more support you guys give, the more ability I have to kind of make videos faster and more frequently and things like that. Plus you get some cool perks and all that stuff over there. So be sure to check that out if you would like. But yeah, I just know I am working behind the scenes to get stuff done, and hopefully we'll have more to do on the channel in the near future. So that's at least the plan. Hopefully we'll be able to execute it. So thank you guys for listening to my ramblings for today. Again, hopefully we'll get to do it more often in the future. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you like this and you're interested in more of the stuff that we do here. Be sure to hit the notification bell, because unfortunately the uploads, they don't come as frequently as I like. So if you hit the notification bell, you'll always be notified when I do actually make a new video. As I said before, you can follow me on social media, on Twitter, on Patreon, all that good stuff if you want to kind of keep in touch with me. And yeah, hopefully I will be seeing you guys real soon. Bye.